School system.
I'd like to call the meeting to order.
Yeah, the town went up, but if the school went down. I can see
The
that.
clerk, please read the
The
statement.
county now says they're going to lower theirs again.
Joint
So
meeting of the Vernon Township Municipal Authority and the
gavel.
Township Council for Thursday, April 20th, 2017. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public and the press on April 10th, 2017. It was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss completing the sewers in the town center, address potential expansion of the Vernon sewer service area, address the disposition of Pump Station 2, Pump Station 3, as well as the lift stations. Official action may be taken. Roll call for the Township Council, Councilmember Kadesh.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs.
Here.
Councilmember Rizzuto. Not present. Councilmember Wetzel.
here,
Council President Murphy. Here. For the Vernon Township Municipal Utilities Authority, Commissioner Gallo. Commissioner Perry.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Carney.
here,
Commissioner Seeger.
Here.
Commissioner Snook.
here,
Alternate Commissioner Wheaton.
Here.
Chairman Buckney.
here.
Please join me to salute the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May I have a motion to open the floor to public?
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there anyone from the public that would like to address both the MUA and the council? Please step forward. Do you have any comments?
Hi, I'm John Stevens from Glenwood. I take interest in what's happening here because of my prior life, as I call it. I'm retired right now, but I was project control manager and project manager for Burns & Rowe Engineers in Oradell, New Jersey. What I would be looking for, as you discuss this subject, is a plan. By a plan, what I mean is a schedule of activities, okay, that gets you to a milestone or milestones or the completion of what do you want to do here. This is, to me, a multi-million-dollar project. It's going to take a huge effort. It's going to take studies, many of which have been done already, but it's going to take more studies. It's going to take assemblage of documents, bid documents, preceded by engineering, and it has to include all the stakeholders, and all the stakeholders include the state and the county, certainly, as well as the township. And those all have to be brought together as to what are your major goals, what are your major requirements, how do you pull those together, and I sort of view this as you, I believe, in my own opinion, are at a pre-planning stage. Call it either planning, definitely planning, but it's pre-planning. And pre-planning activities need to lead to a milestone that actually takes you into the development of documents. I'll call it a conceptual design phase. That conceptual design phase is going to include both owners, documents that are put together. You may bring on an engineering consultant or somebody to help you with this. Things that I say like that obviously cost money, and money is always a concern, the funding of this. But you need to start with that kind of picture. And for me, it's an assembly of activities, left to right. I see the map there, and the map is defining areas, and fine, that's a good start point, a topographical map, or whatever then needs to be developed to show what the area is, what sort of the conceptual layout is. Are you going to do this thing in phases, okay? If you try to do the whole thing at once, you're trying to eat the elephant all at the same time. Do it one bite at a time is my recommendation. Lay out, though, all the pieces that include town center, what you have to complete, expansion, what you have now voted in resolution that you want to do, and what is the end target. And in parallel with that, what has to be repaired, fixed? You got pump stations and lift stations, and those activities that are key and interface with the activities that you're going to develop, conceptual and otherwise. So I would just emphasize, from my perspective, keep that in mind, develop those kinds of documents as you go, and that's showing you your goals. It's activities, the preceding and succeeding activities. You don't have to put a time frame on it. You can put an end date on it right now if you want, but as you go and develop this, you're going to begin to put durations on there. How long is it going to take from A to B to C to D? Can you do A and B in parallel? But do those two have to be done before you start activity C? Establishing those activities and schedule are going to drive basis for completing cost estimates. How much is all this going to cost? And you begin to see as you do that in the phases that you might then develop based on schedule and cost considerations, a clear picture of where you're going. Right now I just sense there's a lot of pieces all over the place and they need to be pulled together. That would be my comment as you talk about this and discuss it. Keep that in the back of your mind. And I'm sure MUA folks, I see head shaking yes, and so it's the way to go. You need to be organized in the thinking, and that'll help do it. Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address?
Good evening. My name is Mark Bauer. I live in Great Gorge Village. I am the treasurer of the governing body there. I'm also vice president of the Minerals Hotel Owners Group, but I'm speaking to you basically as an owner of properties here, not as an officer of these various boards. In our village, we have 1,360 approximately units, many of which, perhaps most of which, are either owned or rented by people who are struggling to make their ends meet. For myself, I can tell you from my own billing experience with our water and sewers that my typical water bill runs around $30 to $40 a month to bring clean, potable water into the house. Getting it out of the house, on the other hand, costs approximately 5 times as much without the water having to be clean or drinkable or anything except gray water or dark water. And this is, as a practical matter, just crazy. We have so many neighbors who are struggling and hotel room owners who are likewise struggling. And something has to be done to alleviate the financial burden that the MUA sewage system has placed upon us. With the projected increases that we have seen published, this is a big step towards bringing Great Gorge Village, and with it the Minerals Hotel, and with that a large piece of Vernon, into a death spiral, because if owners can't afford to live here, that forces them either to sell at reduced rates, bringing down property values, bringing in people who are even less able to afford the increasing sewer bills, and ultimately may result in the forfeitures and people walking away from their properties, abandoning it because they simply can't afford to live here. I don't have a constructive solution or a pot of gold for you to dip into to find money, but it is very widely perceived in Great Gorge Village that Great Gorge Village is seen as an easy mark for the MUA or for the town to raise money and spare the rest of the population of Vernon, which happens by freak of geography not to be connected to the sewer system. If that unfortunate perception has any merit to it, and I fear that it does. We are really looking at a driver towards the collapse of our economy, first there, but ultimately here as well. I respectfully suggest that the sewer system has to be perceived as for the benefit of the entire town of Vernon and not merely for the people who happen to be, by virtue of geographic fortuitous circumstance, connected to it. The base for which the funding of this thing it exists simply has to be broadened if you cannot bring it out of the town of Vernon and back to the county or the state generally. I appeal to you to protect Great Gorge Village, the Minerals Hotel, and all of our owners accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address?
Oh, sorry. After you.
My name is Mike Wilcox. I'm also in the Great Gorge Village. I moved here about 3 years ago to this lovely part of the state and spent some time fixing up my condo in Great Gorge. And one of the things I've seen after moving in here is that, obviously, speaking that over the last 10 years, there was a major catastrophe that happened with property values, and especially within Great Gorge. And if you're ever on Zillow, and you can see, you see people you see condos going into foreclosure for people who basically bought in about 10 years ago and got stuck with a very high value. Looks like the foreclosure now seems to be going down, but what it's doing is attracting people to come into the community to buy something at a reduced value. It's probably a not very nice place at this point because it's probably run through renters that didn't care for their property. But people that are willing to come in, put a little sweat equity into it, and actually turn things around and start making Great Gorge become another vibrant community. But, as we've said here, if someone is coming in and they're looking at their sewer rates going up and up and up, that's going to discourage people from coming in. It's going to, again, stifle these foreclosed units from being purchased by somebody who's willing to invest some time and effort in it and turn it around and make it a tax-paying entity within your community. Foreclosed units, I'm sure, aren't doing much to contribute to our tax base, and they certainly probably aren't paying any sewer rates as well. So I think one of the things that this group has to think about as you're looking forward to doing something to turn this situation around is certainly you need to be selling to the entire community the benefits. Obviously, I'm being a Great Gorge benefit. If you can keep my sewer rates flat for the next 10 years, I mean, you got my vote. What you really need to be doing is, as you come up with plans to solve this problem, you got to be reaching out to the people who are going to be part of the solution and giving them a reason for why they should agree with the plan and put their efforts behind it. And it certainly can't be bailing out the people at the Great Gorge Village. It's got to be something else that they see some value. So again, as you're putting together plans, please think about the broader benefits that this could bring to this whole area. One of the things, I was here at a couple of years ago when we looked at the broader plan the first time around. I come from Indiana. So one of the actually kind of thought this was kind of interesting that we were discussing about expanding sewer plans, because out in my neck of the woods, where we have a lot of lakes and a lot of people have cottages around lakes, they basically have found that the sewer systems, the septic systems around these lakes were failing and they were polluting the lake water. And both Indiana and the state of Michigan, because I live almost on the border, came in and they've put in sewer systems around these lakes. And I kid, I mean, they literally, pipe the water further than I think they are here into sewer treatment plants and dealing with it. Now, in that particular case, because I know I had a brother-in-law who had a place, you know, there was a pretty high hookup fee to these people. But if you think of it in the long term, what we're doing there is they're preserving the quality of the lake water and ultimately going to preserve the quality of these people's properties, because nobody's going to want to be sitting on a lake property looking out and watching dead fish float around in your lake. So again, all the other good things certainly preserve try to solve a problem here so it's a viable long term, but also focus in on what benefits we can give to other people in this community by potentially expanding the system you have today. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Yes. My name is Richard Bagney. I'm an owner in Great Gorge Village, also a member of one of the section boards, an officer on that board. And I've spoken with you before, Mr. Mayor, council members. Perhaps some of you are new on the council, but I think that most of you have heard this same story about the potential effects of these increases on places like Great Gorge Village, which probably represent, and has been said before, maybe 75% or so of the ratepayers. I may be off by a few percent, but if I take 1,000, as Mark so eloquently put, 1,360 or so owners and ratepayers, and use a little math, perhaps there were maybe 1,700 ratepayers. Am I so far off? I remember a publication, a newsletter from the MUA, which is published maybe
Quarterly.
a handful or so of newsletters since 2012, 2013. One of them dated 2014, and the second paragraph said something to the effect that we feel that it's only fair to be putting the emphasis on the payment of these bonds and so on and so forth. In other words, getting the town kind of, on a level format and paying off this debt. We feel that it's only equitable to assign that to the ratepayers and not to the taxpayers. But when somebody looks at the chart that's been out for a while, it goes up to 2027, and we look at the end result of these increases and the debt service and so on that will affect the ratepayers, we're in a situation, and this has been said a number of times, where we may be closing down a good portion of the town, including about, from what I understand, about 1,200 or so registered voters. And, the remainder, up to 1,700 or so voters would no doubt be affected as well. So whatever plans you have, and I know you've been trying, and I know we understand it's a situation that the town has to move on through before you can go on and do, bigger and better things. And I don't know what the answers are, but I really don't think that the answers are that we should wait for sewer expansion, because there are a number of people, quite a number of people in the village that I know are on fixed incomes that can't afford these rate increases while they're waiting for the expansion to take place. So there must be other options. What other options are there? I think the water company, and this has been said before too, a number of times, the water company, United, that this whole thing was purchased from, offered to send in their invoices. As Mark mentioned, and geez, Mark, your water bills are much lower than mine, but mine amount to maybe $40 a month. I have a wife that
likes to do some watering and so on, maybe too much. But $40 a month versus the bills that we used to get from the water company based on supposedly usage, might have been, with the current rate, maybe $50 a month, $55 a month. Not what it could be, what it can be, and what it is now. It's considerably, as you know, considerably higher. So I really think that maybe the township should investigate other options that could be taken, some action to be taken before people start to have to leave their homes. And basically, there's a Great Gorge Village is a community that started as a resort. It's now a year-round permanent living area for people. And people are going to start to leave. That's not good for the town. It's not good for Mountain Creek. Mountain Creek's not good for, if Mountain Creek goes down or is any less than what they are now, that will affect Great Gorge Village and the rest of the town as well. So what I'm saying is that there's basically no action that you can take in the current direction that's really going to help the situation, in my estimation. I mean, I've been here for only 18 years. Many of you people have been here for most of your lives, and you may understand it better than I do, but what I see is a coming disaster. And I just want to try and impress that on you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Howard Greenblatt. I live in the condos. I know you've all heard about what's going on, and you've got 1,200 homes who are upset, but they all don't come out. I want to tell you a story. First, my water bill for years has been $100 a month, including my water, maybe $105. My bills today are $168 without the water. That's a quarter. So that's $700, $600, plus the water, another $20 a month. So here is why I'm up here. We got a letter on the last bill from the MUA, unsigned, stating that, I don't know if it was the first time you don't pay your bill or the second time, but it used the word foreclosure. So I have a friend at the spa. He's about 8, I'm 75. He's 88, 82, 88, whatever. I said, Bill, did you get the water bill? No, I tore it. Did you get the letter? No, I tore it up. I says, well, you better start reading it, because if you don't pay your bill, and you've told me you haven't paid some bills to the town, they're going to foreclose on you. So he used the F word. I says, what do you mean? He says, I haven't paid it, and I'm not paying the goddamn bill. I said, wait a minute, what do you mean you're not paying it? I says, they're going to shut off your water. He said, they did. He said, they shut off your water? What do you do to shower? He says, I go to the spa. He says, oh, okay. I says, what do you do to wash your dishes? He says, I wipe them with a rag. This is a true story. I said, what do you do to go to the bathroom? He says, I go outside my condo. The dogs do it, I can do it. This is a true story. I said, okay, what happens if you have to do the other thing? He says, I do what we did in the Army. I don't know what they did in the Army, and I didn't want to ask him. But when he had to poop, he did whatever he had to do. So I said, Bill, how can this go on? He told me a couple of weeks ago his daughter lent him the money to pay 2 months for his MUA bill. If you don't think this is serious, and any one of you has a conscience, first of all, you don't send letters out warning people about foreclosures without signing your name to it. It's a disgrace. If you want to tell me you're going to put on foreclosure, say, I'm Joe Blow, I'm going to put you up foreclosure if you don't pay. But every one of you has a conscience. These condos are in trouble. And I heard stories that we use 20% of the sewer bills, and we pay 80% of the sewer bills. and I hear that Mountain Creek was using 80% and paying 20%, and they had some kind of a 5-year, they didn't have to pay for it. Now, I don't know how true that is. I know that I spoke to the congressman's office, the new congressman that came here. He listened to me and someone else from here. And I wrote him a note saying that tonight we're having a special meeting. I wasn't sure about this meeting. I was in New York. I had to stay in New York. And I said, listen, will you please send someone from your office here? And he says, I don't know if I can be there. So I never take someone's word and just drop it. I was in business a long time, and my job was to get a job done. So I texted him again today. I said, listen, this is a really important meeting. Can't you send someone down? Mr. Mayor, you know me. You married me. He said, the mayor knows all about this, but you better get your people down here to fight it, because if you don't get a big bunch of people down here, nothing's going to happen. And look at the turnout. If we got 60 people here, I don't know, from the condos, but we got 1,200 condos. A lot of them own homes and rent them. A lot of them don't care. They got children, they got babies, but I know everyone I talk to bitches about what their water bill is being. And I know that $160, if you don't do something about it, will easily go, I hope not, $400 or $500 a quarter. Is it possible? Can anyone answer me? I think it's possible. And you got 1,200 condos here. What are you going to do with those people if they all go into foreclosure, which they won't do? I can afford my water bill, but you got people like Bill, who's wiping his plates down with dishes and crapping outside in the fields like a dog. I hope he picks it up and throws it in the dumpster, but I'm not sure. So that's all I have to say. You all have a conscience. One other fact. I went to this meeting, and they said, well, why should the town pay? Why should the town pay for your water bill, for your sewerage? And I said, I'm a tennis player. I can't play tennis in Vernon because the only tennis courts I have in Vernon are at the high school, and they're beautiful. But I have to play at 3 o'clock when there's no school. I'm paying out of $3,000 ballpark for my taxes. I'm paying $2,000 for school taxes. If I can pay for the school taxes, why can't the whole town pay for the water bill for the whole place here? What the hell is going on here? You got 1,200 condos here. My water bill went from $100 a quarter with water to maybe $800 this year, and it's not stopping. When is it going to stop, and when are you going to be responsible for those 1,200 condos and those 1,200 people? Because you're not. You're sitting here on your rear ends figuring out how you can shove it to the condos. And I'm not saying anything anymore because I broke my chops to try and get 300 people here tonight, and I failed. Because these aren't all condo owners. But I'm staring at every one of you, from the guy who sent, did you send out the letter unsigned about the foreclosure?
Never sent out any letter.
Well, whoever
Everything we sent out is a newsletter, and in the newsletter...
No, okay, whoever sent my last bill, you can find it because I tore it up. There was a letter in there unsigned saying, if you don't pay your second bill, I could be wrong by a month. No. There was something in that letter. You go find the letter that you sent out. It said foreclosure in there. And that's why I told this guy, Bill, I'm not going to give his name out. I'm sure he doesn't want it out. But if you have a conscience, you got 1,200 condos. 1,200, that's not 2 or 3. There's a lot of people in there with children. There's a lot of people there renting because they can rent a condo here for $1,200 a month instead of going to New York and paying $3,000 or $2,300, and they got to schlep by bus to take 3 hours or 2 hours a day to go home. They live here. They're part of this community. And I also want a tennis court up here. You built a park. Why don't you put in a tennis court? I spoke to you about it. Why can't you put in a tennis court? 70-year-old guys aren't allowed to play tennis? And is everyone afraid to talk to you people? I'm not. Take care of the condos over here. You're talking about 1,200 condos. It's about time we saw some action. Because everything, you know something? Everyone I speak to says the other guy can do it. I spoke to him, he says, see the mayor. Saw the mayor, he says, see him. Everyone says, see someone else. What is this, a ping pong game? Because it certainly seems like it is to me. Nobody wants to do anything. I called up CBS News today to come down here. I don't know is anyone here from CBS? No, they didn't come down. But if this gets worse, somebody from the condo is going to call every TV station out, and someone's going to be here. Because this is not right. 1,200 condos don't have to pay for the water bill for the whole town. And I still want my tennis court.
Good evening. My name's Tom Purnell. I've lived in the condos, Great Gorge condos, for 10 years. I've been in the town 20 years. First of all, Mr. Mayor, I know your people had nothing to do with it. Prior administration, the biggest boondoggle this town has had is taking over the sewage division of United Water, a.k.a. Suez Water. It was a terrible mistake. It wasn't well thought out. Okay, so now you have a point of you have Great Gorge, you have Mountain Creek. I'm not sure how many more you have entities that are hooked up to this system, and I don't see any realistic idea of residential areas where the homes are going to hook up without huge fees, which they're going to fight on. So this could take years. Now, I found quite interesting because my washing machine is broken, so I go to the laundromat. My water bill for every 3 months is $12 and approximately 40 cents. You know my sewage bill is $162 every 3 months. Kind of interesting because the amount of water going in is the same amount of water going out. Okay? The bottom line is, I'm going to make this short and sweet. I hope you can come up with some sort of a definitive answer and not make Great Gorge Condo a scapegoat for this system that we should have never taken over. Okay? Great Gorge will become a ghost town because people won't be able to afford. Now, I read in the Star Ledger 3 months ago, we've already lost 2,000 people in the population for this town because so many people do commute and they're tired of commuting. And if you go for excessive fees just to hit the condos, to pay for a system that we shouldn't even have, people are going to start walking away. Then what are you going to do? It's going to be horrible for people with families, senior citizens, and you do have a very large senior citizens population up here. I've already spoke to Acme about that, having a delivery service for the senior citizens coming out of Acme. ShopRite seems to make a lot of money out of it. But the bottom line is, I hope you have an answer to this problem. A real answer. Not a politician's answer, a real answer. Okay? Thank you very much.
Good evening, Gary Markinson, Vernon, long time no see, a lot of you. Actually, I'll make a correction to what you said. This mayor did have something to do with it, only then he wasn't mayor, he was on the council.
I got you. Okay.
And he was one of those councils of many mayors that I spoke to and said that it was important way back when that you needed to know everything. And you didn't. They didn't. Now we're at another point where you're going forward again. And you need to know all the costs. And you need to get that out to those people. And when you tell them, you need to tell them the truth, not partial truths. For instance, it's only $10,000 to hook up. Now, first of all, I appreciate the condo owners. They know I used to fight for them all the time. I'm still fighting for you indirectly. But I'm also fighting for everyone else who now is going to get hammered by this atrocity that hasn't been properly handled all these years. The actual cost per homeowners along the Route 94 corridor and to small businesses like my own, although not me, but the property owner, will be astronomical, okay? They're stuck with the astronomical fees. The additional people that you're thinking about putting on are not going to only be stuck with those fees, and those fees are not going to go down that much, if at all. I don't think they're going to go down at all. I think that's one of those games that get played over the years. But the people in the houses up from me, many of which may be a 4-bedroom house, but maybe just the 2 seniors left living there, if not 1 person living there. But it's a 4-bedroom house. And since the MUA still has not gone to a flow system, which would help them out, as well as helping these people out, they're going to be stuck with the cost for a 4-bedroom home. Okay? Now that means that the homeowner's costs are not going to be a couple $100, maybe $10,000 to hook up. Those homeowner costs are going to be $1,800 minimal to $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, maybe $80,000. Then you have the fee per month or per quarter. That's also going to be high. If you think these people can afford that, you're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. You need to do something all right, but you need to do the right thing. One of the things might be to sell the stupid thing back. To me, that makes the most sense of all. You don't try and fix something, and the plan to go to the state and expand the plan is what? It's to cover costs. That's all it's about. It's not because of sewer problems. It's to raise money to cover something that's failing now, cost-wise. You can't feed it enough. So you have this cancer, this monster, and you want to make it a little bit bigger. Well, guess what? The expansion is going to cost more of it, more cost, because you're going to have the cost to put it in. You're going to have the more piping costs. You're going to have the road costs. You're going to have on top of each other. That monster is just going to keep growing and growing the same way the government does. You got to do something else, folks. Just expanding it is not the answer, especially not if you don't have it fully thought out. I was very disappointed that some of you voted to at least look at the plan. It should be done the other way around. You look at the plan first, then you go to the state. You get together with all the people in this town, especially the ones that are impacted, and you show them the real cost to them. That's why this room is packed with homeowners and local businesses and the rest of the condo owners. Because you haven't done that. Because you're scared to, I think. And you should be. You should be really scared of these people. And it's going to be a lot more than 1,200. You're going to have thousands. And you may have gotten off the hook for this election, but anybody else, sorry. It's a bad, bad situation, and you can't keep going on making it worse. Thank you.
Marika Glenwood, I just have a quick question. Is something big coming to the town, any developer coming to the town, and in order to get to the town, they try to extort people, condo owners, out of their homes? Is anybody else coming to the town, buying the properties in the future, and in order for that, they requesting sewers? Do you have any?
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying.
Is any new company, any new developer is looking for the property that condo owners are at right now? Do you have any idea, any knowledge? No. No. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Doreen Edwards. I live in Highland Lakes. I moved here in 1985 as a first-time home buyer with my husband and my young children, 2 children. And when we moved into the community, not having lived in a lake community before, I really didn't know what to expect. I know there was dues, to pay initially. At that time, I think it was $500. And every year it's gone up and up and up. I know times are hard. Times are hard for everybody, not only the condo owners, but also for regular taxpayers in the town. Right now, the Highland Lakes dues, in addition to the regular town taxes, are about $1,200. They weren't that when I moved in 1985. So, yes, times are hard. They're hard for everybody. I have to now shell out to get a new furnace, okay? There's things that come along that you don't know you know, a furnace has a lifespan, but other things that happen in your life that you don't know, you have to make a decision. Can I afford to live here now, or do I not? And it's just a way of life. I see many, many residents up in Highland Lakes who had to leave. They just couldn't afford it anymore. So while I do feel for the condo owners, I'm telling you, if you raise my taxes, I used to pay $100 a month in taxes. I'm paying 4 or 5 times that now. If my taxes go up as a regular homeowner, I have to make that decision then. Can I afford to stay here? Do I take out the for sale sign? So I just wanted to represent the other homeowners in town as well. And somebody said something about he couldn't get as many people as he wanted. That's the problem. The townspeople need to come out to these meetings, not just when there's a critical situation going on. They need to come out to find out what's going on in their town and to be abreast and atop of the situation so they could have input on things, so maybe this wouldn't have happened. Maybe we won't be where we are right now if we had more people attending the meetings and listening to what's going on in the government. So thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Good evening, Len Colosia. I'm a resident of Great Gorge Village. I want to thank the Town Council and the MUA for having this meeting. We may have to do more of them in the future. And especially in light of the fact that we are getting closer and closer to critical mass. Let's not have that come about. Let's lick this in the bud while we still can. Some of the speakers who were before me are absolutely correct. This whole problem was brought about by the town initially. We all know how this all started. Back in 2000, when Interwest was going to invest millions into a convention center and a hotel, and some of the council people in this very body, not these very people, but this body, had these delusions of grandeur that they were going to be able to get new police cars and pave every street with the tax money that would be flowing in. Well, we all know what happened with that. So I think certainly we are at a crossroads here, and these meetings are really important. I would even appreciate a more informal setting where you people aren't boarded by those desks you have in front of you. So I hope, well, let me say this. If it's bad for the town to have local businesses go down, to have Great Gorge Village be abandoned, to have no commercial development, if it's bad for the town, if that's a town-wide problem, and I think you'd agree it is, then the town-wide solution has to involve the entire town, not just the ratepayers. Okay? You've gone beyond that. We can't foot the bill. The commercial, the mixing bowls and some of the local businesses here, in addition to the residents, cannot foot the entire bill. You're going to have to do what's not politically expedient and involve everyone in the town to pay this enormous mistake that previous administrations have brought upon us, brought upon you. So I think you want to call it a town development tax, you want to call it a whatever you want to call it, but you're going to have to involve everybody. And I have no problem paying, in addition, my ridiculous sewer bill. If my taxes go up because of it, okay. But at least I know it's equitable. At least I know the sewers that were supposed to benefit the town, that the town is paying for, that all the taxpayers, I mean, after all, if we had a lot of growth, well, then that would benefit everyone. That was the initial plan. Okay? It benefits everyone. So why is the liability only limited to this section, but the benefit includes everyone? No, that's wrong. If there is a liability, it has to include everyone, and that is your solution. That's where you have to look. You have to look town-wide. Right now, Great Gorge Village has a a Facebook site in which there are 350 members, and we are growing. There should be around 500 by election time. I expect some kind of solution from this body by then. Some kind of reasonable. I read in the paper where the 3 scenarios by the independent engineering firm, every one of them was crap. Every one. So you're going to have to come up with something on your own. You're going to have to deal with the problems that past administrations, when previous mayors told us everything's going to be okay, you're going to have to do that yourself and bear the brunt of that responsibility. Can't get around it. But I will say that Great Gorge Village, obviously we are very concerned, and we have about 16% of Vernon's population. There will be a voter drive come the summer, in addition to the sites that are set up. And I would tell you that some of that influence will be born in the politics. In other words, if you guys, if the mayor, if the town council people, obviously the MUA is its own tyranny. They kind of follow no one. How that came about and is allowed in this country, I have no idea. There's no recourse with them, but there is with the town council and the mayor. If you guys don't come up with a solution, I promise you that this, between the voter drive and everyone else, we will have more than enough votes to sway this election. So, as homeowners and as business owners, let's get going on this thing, and let's see if we can come up with something and do the right thing. Okay, just do the right thing. You know what it is. All this other malarkey, that's not going to amount to a hill of beans. Okay, you're flailing around. You know what needs to be done. Okay? You've got a huge shortfall and only a few people who can pay for it. You're going to have to include others. That's it. It's the bottom line. All right? The expansion, all this other stuff, you already know what the study is. I thank you for the time, and I hope to see you guys during the rest of the year. If you have another meeting like this where people can voice their opinions, that would be great, and a little informality would be appreciated as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Fury, 44 Sandhill Road. I want to thank the mayor, the council, and the MUA for putting this meeting together. I think it's good that everyone's coming together to try to fix this very complicated problem. I'm pretty familiar with the sewer system. I think you have a big challenge in front of you. I think you do have options. People at the state level are listening. They are concerned about a lot of towns that are struggling with these issues. I had the opportunity to give some testimony at the state senate on water and wastewater infrastructure, and the senators and people on the state level are listening, and they are concerned about water and wastewater infrastructure. So there are opportunities to tap into a lot of resources. The state has opportunities that they can have grant programs that you can access funding up to $100,000 for asset management plans. Those are pretty important to get a good idea of what your system's like, what you need to do, what you need to fix, and the funding that's available on a state level. It is a pretty big challenge for all of you. I do not envy you. There's also a lot of opportunity for funding, very lucrative funding that can help towns. They're designed to get the towns out of the situations that are in. I've been working with the Borough of Sussex. They've been pretty successful getting grants, close to $1.3 million. So that money is available. That the state senators and people on the state level are taking this very seriously. So the issue is that this MUA can't fail for this town. The price of failure is it will be substantial for everybody, the users and the taxpayers. And if I can offer any assistance to get you in the right direction, I'm more than happy to do that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come up?
I'm Gary Govier. I own a house in Glenwood on Carroll Drive. I also own a condo. So my situation is the unprofessional attitude. I come to find out I'm being charged for a 2-bedroom condo. I own a 1-bedroom with a loft. They said, well, you got to call Comet. So I take a day off from work, get an appointment with Comet. They look at my condo. It's a 1-bedroom with a loft. Okay? I call back. They said, well, now the tax people are saying it's a 2-bedroom. Whether it is or not, it's a game, and people are getting tired of the game. Okay? My question is, they say the pump stations are in repair or disrepair. How much is it going to cost to repair them? Does anybody know?
You're talking about the pump station?
Right.
There's estimates at Pump Station 2, 1.2 to 1.5 million. That was the responsibility of Mountain Creek per the interlocal agreement signed in 2012.
Okay. I'm not feeling too well. I just had a recent heart problem, blah, blah, blah. But it's important to be here. There's a defibrillator somewhere, so I'm not really too worried about it. But people do care. The town does care, and we are, I'm involved with Great Gorge, and I'm involved with the town, So thanks for letting me say something.
Is there anyone else? Not seeing anyone else, may I have a motion to close the public?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I just would like to go off topic a little bit, and Chairman Buckney, since we do have some new commissioners, I was just wondering if maybe if you thought it would be a good time just to kind of give some of their credentials, or if they could give some of their credentials, because I'd just like to let the public know that in the, I'm going to say the past year and a half, we had the opportunity to actually have some newer commissioners on the board, which I feel that, are professional within, that understand the sewer system. And I just think it's important that, maybe you get to be a little bit more familiar with the commissioners that we actually have on board. So.
Yeah, I think in the past, part of the newsletter that was mentioned previously, one of the reasons we started the newsletter was so that the ratepayers could be introduced to both our commissioners as well as our professional staff. So I see no problem taking a few seconds so that you don't have to wait for the next newsletter to meet some of our new commissioners. If we can just go down the line and briefly introduce yourself and a little background, sure.
I'm Kristen Wheaton from Glenwood. I've been a resident for more than, 25 years now in Vernon. I'm also a 30-year professional in the water industry. I've been working in consulting since 1987, and I'm new to the board as of February.
My name's Ed Seeger. I've been in town here for 24 years. I've been working in the environmental profession for the last 37 years, and I've got a master's degree in environmental engineering.
I'm Paul Carney, in Glenwood. Just hit my 10th year living in town. 33 years at the North Jersey District Water Supply Commission in North Jersey. It's the biggest water treatment facility in the state. Director of operations there. And I think I could bring a lot to the table in regard to these issues.
My name is John Perry. I'm the Director of Public Works for Monville Township Water and Sewer and Department of Public Works and Water and Sewer. I've been a resident of Vernon for the past 18 years. I joined the board back in February. I take this very seriously. I wanted to volunteer my work, and I was hoping that I could bring something to the table that would help out this situation. That's why I'm here. I have my water and wastewater licenses. I have a S4, C4, a T4, W4, which are the highest water and wastewater licenses you can get. I've had 25 years in water and wastewater experience as either an operator or a manager. And I just hope I can help the people of this township and get us on the right path. Thank you.
And then we do have, Ed, who's been on the board for many years, formerly supervisor, the DPW.
I lived in town 64 of my 68
Well-
years, just like, Dan, we're
Yes, but.
an old tree standing there. I worked for Vernon Township for 36 years, served as Director of Public Works, and retired in 2006. I oversaw the installation of the sewer when it was put in.
Thank you, but I just thought maybe it would be important that you knew who was there. Well, if we could move on, items for discussion. Town center sewer completion. So, would you like to, Chair Buckney? I don't know where you'd like to take this.
Well, I think many of the people that made comments this evening spoke of the difficulties that they encounter with having to pay bills. One of the ways that we have looked at dealing with the rates for the current ratepayers is to increase and gather new ratepayers, new EDUs. And as part of that, we're looking to expand into areas that are already within our sewer service area, our designated sewer service area. That would be one way to bring in new rates. So that's one of the items for discussion that's on the table.
And something I just also wanted to bring up is earlier, the MUA had their meeting earlier, and in order, what we need to do is, as everyone's mentioned, we need to find another way to try to move this ahead, to try to get more flow at the least amount of money, for the least amount of money. There's been discussion as far as, and I know, I think Mr. Seeger brought this up. I had also brought it up during the tour of the SCUMA facility last year, was trying to come up with a way to have some type of a station here right in town. So instead of us sending any of our waste outside of town, it's keeping it here to increase the flow. I would receive the same answer that Ed did from SCUMA, and they said, oh, no, you can't do that. I did go to John Urson, who was our municipal attorney at the time, and he said, yes, you can. Now, since then, we've been pursuing it, and actually the mayor has met with a company last week, this week?
Last week?
Last week?
2 weeks ago.
And we're attempting to move forward with something else, with trying to have this type of station where, let's say a company comes in and they actually bring their waste to us. I know that there was discussions among the engineers as far as having to screen it and all of those items were actually discussed, having a screening, having testing. And at this point, the mayor has actually spoken to the township engineer and has actually, he's looking also into some investigation. As I know, the MUA attorney, as you mentioned earlier, is looking into some of this. And I believe the MUA attorney was involved in something like this, you said, in Phillipsburg?
Yes.
So we're looking for some alternatives as to being able to increase the flow without necessarily, there would be a cost involved as far as putting this plant together, but, it's something we're looking outside the box. And also yesterday, Councilmember Kadish and I accompanied the mayor to Alamucci, where Congressman Gottheimer was speaking, and he was talking about many different grants that are available, and there was also a representative from the USDA. And I did approach her because they were talking about, they start to look at grants and they say, well, grants are available, but, well, when you get to communities that your population is over 20,000, there's more difficulties involved. But then they try to break it down into communities. So I did approach her and I asked, would there be any types of grants available for something like lift stations at the condos? She really did not have an answer one way or another because, as I said to her, Great Gorge in itself is its own community, And so there's a lot that needs to be looked at there, but it was not a no. It was not a yes, but it's something that will probably need to be looked at. I'm not sure if have you looked at something like that?
We've looked at the USDA as an opportunity. The issue with the USDA is going to be the ability to come up with income information regarding low and moderate incomes in order to qualify.
Do they do they use the owner's income, or is it the tenant's?
You're going to use the property owner's income, and you're going to have to run a income analysis of the area, and it can be for areas that are under 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm. Right. But is it something that the MUA, just...
Yeah, if you look at
I have the contact
the sheet that we put together here, that's one of the avenues to look at, USDA.
Yeah, but just so you know, we did actually meet
Okay.
a representative yesterday, so. Want to continue?
With potential expansion of the Vernon sewer service area. It's our next item for discussion, and as of last week, there was a resolution looking at the possibility of the expansion, and the wording there stated in the 94 corridor and the McAfee area. And I think one of the things that we'll need to do, both as an entity of the MUA and the township representatives, is to delineate just what those areas include. And I don't think we can sit here tonight and hash all of that out, but I think that's what we'll need to do, is get a clear delineation of those areas. Once we have that, then we can move forward with going to the regulatory authorities to see if, in fact, those areas would be able to be included in a sewer service area, that being first the county and then the state.
Well, the MUA will be looking at the areas?
Yeah, if I could interject, the gentleman who spoke first.
Yes.
The issue about project and project plans, the engineer for the MUA will be putting together a project plan that will talk about the preliminary steps of going to both the DEP and the county for the purposes of identifying what areas can be looked at for expansion. Because I submit to this board and this public body that if they were to come back and say 0, we've got a worse problem on our hands. The second issue is that will be a series of project steps of identifying both what the preliminary steps are, what the ancillary steps are, in order to get to a goal, which is to define what can be expanded. And yes, expansion is not a panacea, but there are opportunities today for funds to do that work at low interest rates and forgiveness opportunities. And those are available through the New Jersey Fund, New Jersey Trust Fund. And that's what one of our goals is to access those kinds of monies so that what we do put in the ground going forward is done as cheaply as possible from the standpoint of being able to take advantage of those funds. So our game plan is to do that, build up the project plan, build up the steps, and to be able to take that plan, give it back to the council, and report as those things get completed, so that everybody stays in step with what's going on.
So you're expecting to do this and bring it back to the council?
No, we're going to go ahead and do it, but we're going to report to you periodically using the project plan illustrating what we've completed. And we have major milestones. We'll give you those results.
Do you know how long it'll be before this is?
Well,
actually brought, I mean.
the resolution was
5 months.
approved while our engineer was on vacation. She came back on Monday and started on it, okay? So we're trying to get this thing moving as quickly as possible.
Right, but I'm just saying, is it 2 months, is it 5 months, is it, you know?
Well, I think we'd be able to have a plan in a month or 6 weeks. But the issue of being able to get answers as to where we are depends on whether or not we can get a meeting at the DEP, we can get a meeting at the 201 PAC for the county, and get those responses back, and how quickly we can get on those schedules.
First step would be to meet, I'm sorry, this is Serena Roll, engineer for the authority. First step would be to meet with the county engineer and...
Excuse me, Serena, could you just step up, because the
Why don't you sit here, Serene, just grab a chair and bring it over.
But the first step will be to meet with the county and the county engineer to present to them the idea. And as soon as we get that answer, that can happen as soon as this next week. Once that happens, we will have to go in front of PAC, and then we would be able to go in front of DEP just to discuss what would be the alternatives. So that can take easily 9 months to a year to get to a final point.
Could I just ask a question? How many actual hookups within this expansion?
There's...
Well,
we don't know the answer to
that's,
that.
plan yet.
That's, I think what Corinne just described. Prior to getting to that point, there are a lot of preliminary steps that we have to go through with both the county and the state to determine where the areas would be that we would be able to expand. So we don't have any of those numbers at
Actually,
this
what's happened
point.
is we actually closed it to the public, so, and, so that, you know. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's just important at this point to just focus on what the professionals that are speaking are saying, and like Corinne said, it will be 9 months or so before we start to have those types of answers.
Would you open for questions later, after your discussion? Or is that it?
Without hearing what you're saying, we can't, we don't have
No,
information.
it's not a forum, this is not a forum, and we had the open to the public, but actually what we need to do is we need to try to come up with a plan of action of how we're going to proceed, how the MUA is going to proceed.
Understood.
So, I mean, it's not that it's just not open to the public, but they'll never get anything done.
As this gentleman was talking about the project planning, it should have already been done. It'll be in process 6 months ago. So I don't know. what
I agree with you. I agree with you, but, so if we could just move on with, now, do you want to go through the agenda?
So the next item is the disposition of the pump stations 2, 3, as well as the lift stations. Pump station number 2 is an ongoing project that we've worked on along with Mountain Creek. The mayor has been involved in this. Our engineers have been involved in this. And we're attempting to move forward with replacing pump station number 2. Pump station number 3 is a pump station that will also require work in possibly the not-too-distant future. The lift stations, at this point, the lift stations are involved in...
Which we cannot discuss.
Right.
I would just add that the ownership of the lift stations is currently being litigated, so I would caution the governing body to, with their comments with respect to the lift stations.
That the lift stations are involved in litigation, so we really don't have additional information for you on those at this point.
Can we go, excuse me, can we go back to pump station number 2? Now, as far as pump station number 2, obviously Mountain Creek has not come forward. I know that they have sent some designs to the MUA? Did you tell me that they sent
No,
some
what they sent us was a letter of what they believe additional capacity they require for their development plans. Our engineer is reviewing that and is not in agreement with the numbers that they have provided. The second point is that there is an issue as to what location that plant, that pump station replacement is going to go on. At first, it was across the street, then it was on the same site. And the third issue is the fact that they have identified a physical plant that they would like to build, but that plant is not to our liking from the standpoint that it is a wide open area with things underground and no building over the top, providing no safety from the weather or protection from the weather for our field operators if they have to go in and do work. So we're not happy with that stuff. We're in the process of trying to set up a second meeting with them to go over that data. My feeling is that, and this is just my feeling, that the council ought to set a date certain and let Mountain Creek know that if they don't comply with the details for design, location, and capacity by a certain date, then the township should go ahead and build the replacement pump station satisfying what we believe our capacity requirements are as it comes out of the town center and the other pump station. And as a result, at a later, and then at the same time when we do that, put an assessment on Mountain Creek for that work and back that up with a lien on a property like the Red Tail Lodge to ensure that the debt is paid. And then, when Mountain Creek finally gets around to determining what its other developmental projects are and can nail down their extra capacity, then they can come forward and put another addition onto that pump station if that's necessary for that, and at that point in time, they can pay for it.
John,
Because
you said the
they're not-
township to do the design and stuff, you meant the MUA, right?
Yes, I'm sorry, but the township needs to be able to lay this down because it's their contract
Right.
with Mountain Creek to get this done.
You have a date you recommend?
Well,
yesterday, yes.
No, I would say,
July 1st, 2013.
I would say if you want to say that today is the first day of the rest of our lives, put the date down at May 30th and make them get it done. And if they don't do it, then let's move.
Because they just keep moving along with us, and they'll send a letter to us or to you, and nothing gets done.
And now that there's been changes in management there, we're going to have to deal with the learning curve with all of the new people that might be there, that we'll be dealing with. So I think that at least shows them that we're serious about moving forward and getting something done, and that we're not going to play with the nonsense of the issue of capacity, location, and type of physical plant that they're going to build. Because I understand they're going to want to do the cheapest possible thing, and I'm not suggesting that they have to overspend. What I am suggesting is that there's a minimal requirement for what we need according to our engineer, and that needs to be matched.
Excuse me, I have a question. How long will it take for that pump house to be constructed?
Oh, man.
Just an estimate.
I want to say at least a year and a quarter. I don't know if it's more than that. It could be 16 months, 18 months.
They've told us at least a minimum of 18 to 24 months in the
Yeah.
past. That's what they've always told us.
I mean, for example, if we go to a completely new site for it, I'm sure there's all kinds of wetlands and other type studies that have to be done for that parcel. If we stay on the parcel that we're currently on, then we have to have an intricate methodology for building that allows the current pump station to continue to function while we put the new one in place and come up with a methodology for cutover if we're using the same site. So either way, whichever decision you make, there's some intricacy involved, and it's going to take some time.
How long does it take to get an infrastructure loan?
How long does it take to...
To get that infrastructure loan so we can pay for it.
Oh, if you were to do that, you could apply, you could put the application in place today, if you could get it all the information in place. And the applications are a rolling application. When you get to the point of saying your application's complete and you want it to be considered, you upload it and send it, and then they start to work on it. My guess is it can be anywhere from 1 month to what, 6, before you get a decision?
Oh, it will take close to 6 because you will have to get some permitting done.
In between.
A long time.
Because you have to show up on the day that you want to close that loan with all of the permits and approvals that you need to get the work done with.
So add that process onto the top.
Well, that can be done in parallel in that 6-month period, so I would say that the earliest is 6 months.
Thank you.
I have a question to our attorneys. Sorry for my back. But if we were actually to proceed with the pump station without Mountain Creek and have to actually put the debt on them, how would we be protected? How would the township be protected should they file bankruptcy? Should they file Chapter 11 or whatever?
That's for the lawyers.
Yeah, I mean, I'd prefer not to talk about strategy in an open session.
Okay, I just...
I mean, I'm not trying to be coy, but honestly, I don't want to show our cards to...
Okay, I just wanted to put that out there because that is...
Our strategy in front of everybody. Why not
Well, our strategy, this strategy that's being talked about right now doesn't involve...
It's not your strategy. It's mine,
Okay.
theirs, not yours. You don't even...
Mr. Murphy?
I apologize, Mr. Murphy. So the strategy...
No,
The strategy that's being discussed now involves the development of the infrastructure needed to address the problems attendant to the sewer service area and the rate players, as you know.
But there are deadbeats.
But in terms of discussing what actions the town council or the MUA would possibly take against Mountain Creek in potential litigation, that's not something that I would advise we discuss in open session because, again, they would see what action we plan on taking. So I'm not trying to be coy. I'm just trying to protect the town council and the MUA.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And I'm just bringing it up because that, of course, is weighing on our minds as, you know, what happens once we lay the money out or sign for the loan when they're in fact responsible for it. But in its current condition, what we're told from the MUA, you know, it cannot continue the way it is.
Who owns it?
Vernon Township owns it. Vernon Township owns it. The agreement in 2012, that agreement that was drafted in 2012 said that made Mountain Creek responsible for replacing it. That was one of the conditions. We have this.
Yeah, I think.
talking points.
Councilmember Murphy,
Yeah.
Council President, I'd be remiss if it is a consideration that the members of the governing body and the MUA should consider is the possibility of a bankruptcy filing with respect to whatever strategy you are ultimately going to develop, because if there is a bankruptcy, obviously the objective of Mountain Creek would be to discharge that liability. So if you are going to move forward and undertake that responsibility, you need to be aware that there's a risk that you will ultimately be stuck with that responsibility.
You can't discuss that.
But I can ask, Mr. Wetzel. It's something that needs to be asked.
You asked them.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we, in some talking points that were developed previously, we started out with water and where it's needed. The fact that the town center needs to have additional water provided is certainly an issue that we need to deal with. And Mayor Shortway, if you have some comments
Absolutely.
concerning that.
First of all, thank you all for coming. And although sometimes the comments are painful, it's what makes this country great, and I just love hearing it, because I think that's what government is, and that's where you should express your opinions. To the MUA, I look forward to working together. Our new members, as I considered who we're going to appoint,
who I was going to appoint, with the consent and advice of the council, your backgrounds were looked at, and your resumes were very, very impressive. We are looking to go forward, but before we go forward, done extensive research where we are and where we need to go. When we started addressing Pump House 2, as far as back as in 2008, there was a report it was failing, as well as the lift stations. It was noticed back in the minutes from the MUA back in September 8th, 2011, Pump House 2 lift stations are failing. In December 7th, 2012, the MUA attorney, Mr. Fury, as the operator of the pump system, also said it was harmful, it was hazardous, and nothing has been done. As many of you know, right after the election, when I was elected, I had cancer, I had surgery, and one of the first meetings I had, even before I took office, was with Mountain Creek. I have refused to extend their payment of the deficit. I am not going to extend it, and they did pay this year almost $600,000. I also am going to enforce rebuilding Pump House 2. It has to be done. I just have to find the best legal, financial way to do it. Because if it fails, there will be a catastrophe because the Black Creek is right there. And I guess it was last summer, and I met with the DPW guys out there. It must have been, midnight during a thunderstorm. I think I'm standing in rainwater runoff. No, it was waste coming out. And these gentlemen got it running again. We cannot have that. So then we look at, what are we going to do for the rate users and help the town grow? We looked at selling it. Early on in the administration, we looked at it. The debt is unsustainable. No one wants to buy it. Other methods that we're trying to do, we're waiting to hear from a developer who had interest of buying 50,000 gallons per day of allocation. So we're looking at that method. The transfer station docking, which the county opposes, we're looking at that. We'll need different ordinances. For instance, like West Milford has, everyone will be pumping their septic tank at least every 3 years. It's good for the lakes, it's good for the community. Then we need to put out RFPs. If we can financial, we have to study this. This is just right out in the open. Mrs. Murphy, we discussed this probably over a year ago. Can we do this? How are we going to do it? Is it going to be financially feasible to do it? That every house, every residence, every business indirectly would be hooked up to the sewer system. Because we would have the ordinances there. If they could save money, instead of, I guess the average, I paid $375 the last time, and we can get it done for $350. The transporter, they would save money because they're not going to Beacon, New York, or down to the Passaic County Water Commission. They go right here and hook up here. If we could just increase the flow by 50 EDUs a year, that could stabilize the rates. Of course, we all want them to go down, I get it. So these are different programs we're looking at. Then we come in, how do we expand? We need water. It just is common sense. You need water to create wastewater. But we put a sewer system in without water. Some of these wells, they don't work like they used to. Some are contaminated. So how are we going to get the water in? And when I first took office, I thought this was just about getting some votes and we can just go to town. But the more I look, the more I find too little's been done. And we're almost at ground zero, bringing water into the rest of the town center area. First of all, we're in a deficit according to the Highlands. So what we have to do now, and we found a paperwork and a grant that was available since September 2015 to study the water in Vernon, all 68 square miles. So we can get it out of the deficit, then we meet with the Highlands, we have additional water because we're going to need additional allocation, pressure and volume. That's why you have black plastic bags around your fire hydrants. There's no water. Down 515 in front of Acme, there's a lot of water being used from their well, but there's no water pipes. So we need to expand on this. But this is not going to happen this year because there's so much work to be done. You have to do the test studies. And talking to the engineer today, we have to study the water allocations. We need DEP approved permits. BPU franchise may have to be expanded. We need a hydraulic model, conceptual agreements, negotiations. This is going to go on and on and on. But we're starting this week with studying the water. $80,000 grant, so it's not coming out of the rate users. It's not coming out of the taxpayers' pockets. It's coming from the state. So
So we'll study the water, what we have. These are some of the ideas, but you don't want to just put water in without taking a parallel line, and that is, how are we going to attract businesses? Because once we turn that water on, the clock's ticking, interest rates. So I look to expand the town center, just around different areas that we can auction off properties. I have talked to different developers, hoping they would come in, buy this property, and then we have to have the sewer there, we need the water there so they can build. And these aren't extensive. It's right here in the town center, just on the adjacent properties to it. We get this done, town center, then we apply for redevelopment area. That allows us to offer pilots, payment in lieu of taxes. Then we can attract businesses coming in. But if there's not water coming in, you don't have wastewater. It's that simple. So when we're looking at the other means, like I said, perhaps selling some of the allocation. But trying to sell it, we tried. We met with different people. They said, no way, because you have the problem that we have to pay the debt directly to SCUMA. They're not going to allow you to have a private person involved, and that's how they got it. Vernon indemnified them back in 2008 or 2007, I think it was. So that's what we're looking at, the water, expanding it. There's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle. You go to Pump House 2, even if we improve Pump House 2, if you put additional flow into Pump House 2, you got a 10-inch main, 30 years old, that needs to be studied. Increased flow could blow that up, so you may have to sleeve that main. I think it's about 8,700 feet. It could cost $100 to $200 a linear foot. Sleeving could be a lot less, but we have to study it. That's why the asset management plan is so important. A lot of this forgiveness, you get the $100,000 from them, and if you do a project right away, they'll forgive some of this money, maybe $40,000, $50,000. There's free engineering also up to $40,000 with the New Jersey EIT. They're not really grants. It's funding that they forgive. They can't use the word grant. But in the end, that's what it's about. Mr. Fury said he has been testifying before a Senate subcommittee. I've been asked to provide written testimony to that committee because they all think it's urban. We're not in the urban setting. We know where we are. The senators are unaware of the problems that we are facing here in Vernon, so I'll be doing that. Reaching out to Congressman Gottheimer, and you know he's very busy. He just started, but we did meet with him yesterday, the USDA grants. One of the things they're going to look at is income, and they will look at the 2010 census if we can get that done. Which that's done, then we'll have a new one. So we're looking at NJ EITs, we're looking at USDAs, and then we got to put all this information together. So like I said, there's a lot of moving pieces to this puzzle. We got to put them together, and it is, you said it exactly, Mr. Stevens, it's all about planning, objectives and goals, how we're going to get there, and then reassessing what we put forth to see if even there's a better way to do it. Thank you.